Greetings friends, you are watching Ruslan Beylov's channel. Today we will break down the situation in Ukraine in detail as of February 3rd, 2026. Over the past 24 hours, there have been many truly significant and high-profile events, so I suggest we skip the lengthy introductions and move straight to the analysis. We begin with the latest large-scale strike carried out on the night of February 3rd, 2026. During this attack, the Russian Federation deployed hundreds of unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, as well as dozens of missiles of various types. Early this morning, Ukrainian sources began publishing maps showing the directions and target areas of the strikes. According to this data, the night saw the use of drones, Kh-101 air-launched cruise missiles, Zircon hypersonic missiles, Kh-22 missiles, Kinzhal systems, Caliber C-launched missiles, and Iskander operational tactical ballistic missiles. The number of explosions was highly significant. Several major impact zones are clearly visible on the map. One is located in the Vinnytsia region, and another, relatively small one, was recorded near Odessa. Substantial strike clusters were noted in the city of Kyiv and the Kyiv region. A major impact zone hit the Dnipropetrovsk region and the city of Zaporizhia, and several clusters were recorded in the Kharkiv area. It should be emphasized that the primary targets of these strikes, as before, were energy infrastructure facilities. It is important to note that this strike was, in many ways, unexpected. For his part, Volodymyr Zelenskyy made active attempts to delay it as much as possible. Apparently, it was obvious to all parties involved that a strike was inevitable, but the key question remained one of timing. Would it occur before the conclusion of the Abu Dhabi negotiations or after? Zelenskyy aimed to push the moment to a later date, roughly February 5th, 6th, or 7th. In parallel, the Ukrainian side, in close cooperation with SpaceX, attempted to develop a technical mechanism to separate Russian Starlink systems from Ukrainian ones. Furthermore, there were reports of the launch of a UAV verification program. All of this indicates that time for decision-making was running very short, including for the Russian side. Ultimately, the Russian Federation decided to strike specifically on the night of February 3rd, a period when the most severe frosts were observed across Ukraine. Perhaps the final factor influencing this decision was not so much the attempts to stall the negotiation process or coordinate with SpaceX, but rather Mark Rutte's official visit to Kyiv. At first glance, this visit might seem ordinary. However, it is worth recalling that the Russian Federation has repeatedly emphasized its position on the inadmissibility of foreign troops, including NATO forces, on Ukrainian territory. From this perspective, Mark Rutte, as a representative of NATO, may well be viewed in such a context. For Ukraine, this step may have been symbolic, but for Moscow it appears to have been yet another crossed red line. Returning to the strike map, one can notice that part of the strikes hit the Vinnytsia region. In this region, the main targets were 330 kilovolt substations, one of which is located near the settlement of Bar. According to expert reports, 8 Kh-101 missiles and 6 Caliber missiles hit this location. The substation was subjected to a massive impact. At the moment, there is no video footage to assess its actual condition, but there is a high probability of serious destruction. Another facility in the Vinnytsia region that came under attack was the Vinnytsia 330 substation. According to open sources, at least 6 Caliber missiles were fired at it. Moving further, we come to Kyiv and the Kyiv region, where a large number of impact zones were also recorded. Particularly significant information is coming from here. The key event appears to have been a massive strike on the Kyiv 750 substation. According to available data, 12 Kh-32 missiles and 2 Zircon hypersonic missiles were fired at this facility. Looking at the map again, one can see 2 red lines coming from the south. These denote the trajectories of those 2 Zircons. The Kyiv 750 substation is one of the most critical energy infrastructure facilities because it connects the Rivne nuclear power plant, located in northwestern Ukraine, to Kyiv. Earlier information suggested that the Russian military command had been tasked with disconnecting the Rivne NPP from the capital. It is possible that as a result of this strike, this has either already happened or Ukrainian energy services will be forced to manually disconnect Kyiv from this substation due to the damage sustained. Another facility subjected to a massive strike was the Plea power plant, located south of Kyiv. According to sources, about 12 missiles were fired at it, 6 of which were Kh-32s and another 6 were Kh-101s. It is difficult to assess the scale of destruction yet, but many local Kyiv sources report that one of the power plants was completely destroyed. As a reminder, as a result of strikes between January 20th and 24th, 2026, according to open data, Kyiv TPP-6, located in the northeastern part of the city, was completely disabled. Now reports are coming in that another power station has been destroyed without the possibility of restoration in the near future. This could refer to either Kyiv TPP-4, which some reports suggest may have been hit by 2 Iskander missiles overnight, or Kyiv TPP-5 in the southern part of the city, where open sources recorded up to 4 Iskander hits. Thus, it appears another energy facility has suffered critical damage. Detailed information is not yet available, but sooner or later it will appear in the public domain. In time, satellite imagery will be published, allowing for an assessment of the scale of destruction and the overall state of the energy infrastructure after this strike. At the same time, it is important to understand that this strike is likely not the last. The negotiation process has not yet started. The talks are scheduled to begin on February 4th and conclude on February 5th. There is a high probability that after the first day of negotiations, that is, on the night of February 5th, the Russian Federation may deliver another strike. We have seen such tactics before, where strikes were carried out immediately after the first day of talks as an additional argument or a tool of pressure to push the parties toward more decisive steps and concrete decisions. Now, let us move directly to the line of contact and examine the key events that have occurred over the past 24 hours. We begin with the Zaporizhia direction. Several minor adjustments have come in from this sector, primarily from pro-Russian sources. According to their data, over the past day, Russian units managed to advance slightly along the railway line toward the settlement of Zaliznikne. A small salient has formed in this sector, and the Russian side is attempting to eliminate it to straighten the front line along the railroad. This, in turn, is intended to increase unit mobility and improve logistical support. Offensive operations also continue toward the settlement of Rozdolivka. As a reminder, according to information from the last 3 to 4 days, Russian units have managed to significantly improve their positions in this area by advancing near the settlements of Ternovate and Pridorozhna. Currently, it appears the Russian army is beginning to gradually probe the defenses of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, AFU, directly in the Rozdolivka area. Next, we move to the Novopavlovsk sector. Minor changes in the situation have also been recorded here. Combat operations in this direction have been ongoing for nearly a year. Russian units made their first attempts to advance as early as the beginning of 2025. As of today, information is coming in regarding small adjustments south of this settlement. It is possible that more detailed data will emerge soon, and the Ukrainian side may have to withdraw slightly to the north. Moving on to the Dobropilya direction, a small adjustment has been reported affecting nearly the central part of the settlement of Hryshine. This information is being circulated by pro-Russian analysts, according to whom Russian units have managed to improve their tactical position in the area of Stepover Street. The next direction in our review is Kostiantynivka. This is where the largest amount of geolocation material is coming from today. Virtually all published geolocations, without exception, are dedicated to strikes on logistical routes and rear positions of the AFU. A number of video recordings show strikes by FAB aerial bombs on artillery positions, presumably targeting artillery crews. Slightly to the south, directly in the area of Kostiantynivka itself, at its base, in the so-called neck of the city, several videos were published simultaneously showing attempts by the Ukrainian side to transfer fresh reserves toward the city. However, all equipment attempting to approach Kostiantynivka is being struck by FPV drone operators of the Russian armed forces. This serves as further confirmation that the logistical situation for AFU units in this sector remains extremely difficult. Analyzing the total number of strikes in this direction since the first of the month, it becomes obvious that a significant portion of supplies is likely not reaching the front line at all. Next, we move to the Sloviansk direction. Today, a number of mapping services confirmed the advance of Russian units in the area of the settlement of Nikiforivka. Recall that certain reliable pro-Russian sources were the first to report these changes yesterday. As of today, this information has been confirmed by neutral mapping platforms. According to the latest updates, the armed forces of the Russian Federation managed to advance in the Nikiforivka area and close in on settlements such as Lipivka and Fedorivka Druha. Overall, the distance from the Russian army's potential forward positions to the settlement of Rai-Oleksandrivka is currently less than 4 kilometers. Today, Rai-Oleksandrivka remains effectively the last more or less stable defensive hub for Sloviansk from the eastern direction. Should this settlement be lost, it will signal the beginning of combat operations directly for the Sloviansk agglomeration itself. Slightly to the north, the Russian side continues to deliver massive strikes on bridge crossings in the area of the settlement of Mayaki. The Ukrainian side regularly attempts to construct these crossings to connect the northern and southern banks of the Siversky Donets River, which is necessary to maintain the AFU garrison in the Lyman area. From the Kupiansk direction, very little information has been received in the last 24 hours. Only a few videos were published showing strikes on the settlement of Kovsharivka. According to several experts, the so-called pocket in the Kovsharivka area represents the last remaining AFU bridgehead on the eastern bank of the Oskil River. This sector is currently being actively stormed by Russian units from the direction of Kurilivka, Kupiansk, Vuzlovyi, and from the south, from the direction of Kolesnikivka. Thus, it can be assumed that this is perhaps the last AFU bridgehead in the northern part of this front line in the Kupiansk region. Regarding the Sumy direction, key events in this sector, according to various mapping resources, are currently unfolding in the area of the settlement of Myropilya. Today, the North Group of Forces, through its Telegram channels and certain mapping sources, published major adjustments in the area of the pocket located east of Myropilya. According to several experts, the entire territory located east of the marked red line is already under the steady control of the Russian armed forces. The Russian army, in turn, is gradually preparing for further advancement and an assault in a westerly direction, directly toward the settlement of Myropilya itself. Thus, we can observe that despite the overall development of the situation, the pace of offensive actions in the Sumy direction continues to increase. It is possible that in the near future, closer to the spring period, the Russian army will move toward more decisive actions, unless, of course, the conflict in Ukraine is settled through diplomatic means by that time. With this, we conclude today's review, dear friends. Thank you for your attention, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and all the best to you.